All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait. We needed to go on right after the game. Well, not right after the game, but we needed to go on after the game because the bats are awake, guys. Can you believe it? We're not playing hide and go seek with the bats. But before we get into all that, subscribe to the channel, like this video. Let us know how you're feeling because the vibes are high. Everybody's hitting. Luis Angel is, I don't know, looking awesome. But Victor, how you doing?
Doing great, ask and you shall receive. Christmas in September. And I asked for a sweep, and we got a sweep. And guess what? We were rewarded for it. We're now two games ahead of the Atlanta Braves for in the wild card race, and we're now in the second wild. We're holding the second wild card because we had the tiebreaker against the Diamondbacks. And so life is good as a Mets fan right now. But hey, job's not done. We haven't clinched yet. No, we have 4 games set to look at. We have a 3 game with Atlanta. So lots of baseball to play. This is a good time to be excited. Good time to feel those vibes being high. But man, like the old adage is with baseball, on to the next one.
Yeah, no, for sure. On to the next game. But before we get to the next game, what a series. You know, Going into the series, vibes were a little low because of Lindor not being able to go. Uh, Getting that MRI on Monday, and so we were waiting to hear. Then we hear on Monday that the scans are clean, but with a back, we kind of touched on this, in the previous pod, is that when you're older and backs get to mess with you a little bit, you don't know how they really going to react, and this is like Mendoza said, he was expecting the worst before the MRI, so because there's a back. The backs are a very tricky thing, and luckily just needs some rest. He's actually running around, doing some jogging on the field today, and doing some work, but he's not quite ready yet. But if Luis Angel can keep going, he can get all the rest that he needs until he can get back and ready to go. What do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is exactly the vibe or the boost that the Mets needed. They needed a boost, and they got one in a Venezuelan 5'8" package size. Because I tell you what, that man is electric. Hitting, didn't think you hit for power, but hitting 2 home runs in this series and stepping up big at shortstop, which is a huge role to fill. Not only is it shortstop, one of the hardest positions on the field, but you're playing trying to fill the shoes of an MVP caliber shortstop, and so he did brilliantly filling into that role. And like I said, this might be the boost that the Mets need. They had that meeting with David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza and Pete Alonso all speaking about how they gotta persevere in this wild card race, that they need to keep going, and how much they wanted to celebrate that when the time comes. And they seem to get that, and scoring 10 runs in each of these last 2 games really speaks volumes to how much this Mets team is vibing right now. So let's hope that the vibes stay high, that Francisco Lindor comes back, maybe in this series, maybe in the next, but feels good to not have to rely on a Francisco Lindor to get some wins.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Ryan Finkelstein on Locked On Met said it. Can this Lindor injury be a blessing in disguise? And right now, so far, it's looking like that because if he didn't get injured, we wouldn't have seen Acuna. So it might be something to that. But we can harp on all the good vibes. We can keep going. But I know you guys don't want to hear us talking all night. So let's get into it. Let's break down the series. And game one on Monday, we had another Mania start. And man, did we think we were about to waste another Mania start? you know, because the bats were quiet. I don't know if it's the lingering effects of the Lindor back injury. Still kind of feeling it, but it's also Jake Irvin pitched a good game. I know that we have mixed feelings about Jake Irvin. He ruined our Fourth of July when we went to go see the Nationals. We see the Mets at Nationals Park, but Jake Irvin's actually looking like a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah, he looks good, man. And Sean Manaea did his best to duel him in this one. Very frustrating stuff to start this game because we had some key moments where we could have added on to, or we could have gotten Jake Irvin, but we just didn't execute. Mark Vientos seems like he is starting to come to form, but in this game, he kind of struck out in some big spots and didn't come through in some of these spots. And it really hurt the Mets and almost cost us the game. And so same thing with Starling Marte in this one too. With him striking out or just getting out in that big spot in the eighth inning, and then coming back. But he redeemed himself. He came back. He provided that walk off win, and this is what seems like it just snowballed for the rest of the series. Once we got that monkey off our back with that first game, this is a team that we've been beating all year, and we just have to remember that in this last part of this first game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you talked about Mark Vientos. I thought he was going to tie the game, but we didn't realize how slow Mark Vientos is. That boy is slow. Because that weak grounder, and Jake Irvin popped off the mound, and it was in a perfect spot. I thought he would have beat it easily, and he got him out, and it was like, whoa, how slow is Vientos? And he you I think it was I forget who said it, but it made Pete Alonso look fast. So it's crazy, but you're right. Marte, yeah, he didn't come through in the eighth, but he's looking like a guy that wants to make sure he gets all the playing time he can get because he's starting to come through, and he came through in this game and got us the win with the walk off.
Yeah, those veterans have really stepped up, and we gotta give a quick shout out to Jose Iglesias for stepping up in this leadoff role because he's done it really well. Not only is he providing a spark on and off the field, but he's getting on base. I don't know if he kept his on base or his hitting streak up in this series, but he was riding a 10-game hitting streak going into this one and didn't seem to let up on it. Batting in that leadoff role, and for a spot that was filled again like we said, where Francisco Lindor is out, you're filling big shoes, and for him to have that confidence to go out there and provide when the Mets needed it, they were down in this game, and he provided the game-winning or game-tying hit when our hopes kind of seemed lost. We had Tyrone Taylor lead off that inning, get that double, get moved over. By I think Francisco Alvarez ground out, and then JD Martinez I think struck out, and then you had um, Jose Iglesias come up to the plate and drive in that single, which drove in the game tying run, which was a huge moment for him. And so he's just done amazing. What vibes this guy provides for this team to carry them into this late season push, playoff push. This is veteran stuff right here. Some of the stuff that we need to see more out of our other veterans, but the fact that we're getting from Jose Iglesias makes me want to see him in the Mets uniform next year.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to see him in the Mets uniform next year, but as a bench player, coming off the bench, and because at the end of the day, he is going to be, well, he's 34, so probably 35 by the time the season starts. So I definitely want to see him on the bench because he still has the wheels to. He may not have the range supposedly that he had when he was younger, but I still think he'd be a valuable piece off the bench for us next year. But you're right. He did keep his hitting streak going, and he did step up into that leadoff spot because you weren't going to thrust anybody else. You weren't going to put Nimmo back there. and you weren't going to thrust the rookie just coming up to the leadoff spot. And Iglesias has lived up to it. Let's move on to game two. Game two, we got Tyler McGill. Um, Started off a little shaky, gives up a run to that double play on James Wood in the first inning, and and for a couple innings, he was having a hard time finding the strike zone. Um, I was getting nervous for a little bit, and then we kind of settled him down a little bit because scoring runs for him, and I think us scoring the Mets scoring runs for him kind of helped him calm down a little bit and think that, because I don't know about you, but maybe to me he was pitching like he thought he couldn't give up any runs.
Yeah, after the Mets got him that lead, I think he retired 10 in a row to finish off his night. And, you know, it's just it wouldn't be a Tyler McGill start if he doesn't give you a heart attack somewhere in that start. And so, but Tyler McGill is continuing to impress us. He did not impress us early in the year where we were calling for him to be sent down for him to be traded even. And now for him to come back in these last two starts and give us quality outings where we can pick up a win for him, great stuff. And again, vibes are immaculate. When he went back into um, that dugout, and after he completed his sixth inning, you could see his teammates cheering him on and continuing to show support, which is what I love about this team. They continue to build each other up and support each other when things are great, and even when things are bad. They're always there for each other. And it was great to get not only off the field, but to get that support on the field with some of that run support. Pete Alonso. This has happened right after the Pete Alonso um, meeting, is what we'll call it. And Pete Alonso delivered. Everyone was talking about how he needed to step up because he was the one to talk. And that's exactly what he did. He stepped up in a big role, in a big way, got some 5 RBIs and another home run. And maybe he's coming into the Pete Alonso form that we know and love. Because, as much as we've hated on Pete Alonso this year, I will still love to see him in the Mets uniform. I think he can provide a huge role for this team. Uh, in certain spots, we know how streaky power hitters can be. But if he's going on this power verge right now, man, all this season will be washed away because of what he's doing in this last week of the season.
Yeah, no, for sure. Everything will be forgiven if the streak starts now, right? And that's how we're going to talk differently about Pete depending on how he does in the last 10 games that we have here. No, for sure. And but not to forget, Luis Angel gets his first RBI to tie up the game, right? First RBI in the major leagues to tie up this game, and this guy comes up and he's electric, man. I know that on Monday they wanted to stack all the lefties up, but you can't keep this guy out of the lineup. I mean, you gotta put him in the lineup because he starts off the scoring for us by hitting that double, and I mean you saw the speed. He came into second base smooth, so you saw his speed, and then Iglesias comes, gets on base, and then you see the Alonso. It kind of started off a little shaky that at bat, and because I thought he was chasing in the beginning of the at bat, but for some reason he settled down and got that bloop single and scored the 2 runs, and off to the races we go. And so absolutely, this is one that Peter Alonso also had a home run. You had Luis Angel his first home run as a Met, and that swing looked just like his brother, by the way. And this is they were talking about first. Let me talk about Pete. I know he hit a home run in this game, but it might be part of that streak that we were talking about. I know some people are going to hate on it because it came in quote unquote garbage time, but it the difference between this home run and other home runs is that Pete actually came through in the previous at bat in this game, right? A lot of those ones that we kind of hate on or want to hate on, most fans hate on, is he's going 0 for 3 and then he hits a home run in his last at bat. No, this one he was already coming through and he got that home run. So it's part of the streak that I think he's hopefully going on, and then Luis Angel, a couple weeks ago they were talking about they want him to get more at bats, right? And I kind of mentioned this offline, is that maybe he's a guy that was just tired of being in AAA. He just wanted to come up and be on stage, right? And sometimes there's guys like that you're like, he doesn't have the great numbers in AAA, but they come up and they're a whole new person.
Yeah, it's so fun to see the personalities of baseball because there's another Venezuelan on this team that is exactly like that. When rubber hits the road, Francisco Alvarez provides, and this is Francisco Alvarez hit his third home run in 6 games in this game, and his Venezuelan counterpart did hit his first home run in his major league career, and so I just love to see these young players come up big. Mind you, they're actually the same age too, so they're probably feeding off of each other. I'm sure that they're feeding off of the vibes that they give each other and the energy that they get from being young Venezuelan stars that are coming up in the major leagues. And so, love to see Luis Angel. And I want to throw you guys back to the first, his first opportunity that he got in this game for an out. He right in that, I think it was the third inning, when they scored that run in the third inning, that unearned run, and Mark Vientos threw that low ball to Luis Angel that he just missed. That could have been a nerve-breaking moment for him, where he kind of starts to get in his own head and starts to question himself if he's really major league ready. But instead, he goes off to have what was the game of his career so far in his short career, and hits 2 extra base hits and his first major league home run. This is a guy that we didn't expect to have a lot of power, and he's already hit 2 home runs in his 4 games up with the Mets, and
Hmm.
so lots of energy, lots of excitement to see from Luis Angel. And like you said about Pete, it doesn't. This whole rally, this whole thing doesn't get started without him. And so I know that he hit that home run late in the game, in a 6-1 game, which is not always out of reach. We saw the Mets give up a lot bigger leads than that. And so for him, it's still an important run to put the icing on the cake and get that 9-1 lead. But he was the one to get that started with the 2-run single in that fifth inning or bottom of the fourth. Um, and so, love to let everything about this game. Loved that we didn't have to use all of our best guys, and that Tyler McGill was able to get six in this one. So, and the vibe just kept on getting better after this game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you kind of mentioned Vientos. He made a play yesterday. He made another play today that most early in the season I think he would have missed. Um, you know, and he made a play today. I mean, yesterday, where most third basemen wouldn't have thrown that ball, and he got Juan Yepes out. Obviously, Juan Yepes is a slow runner, but the fact that the way he threw that ball, and I don't know about you, but is Vientos getting better on defense as the year's going on? I mean, because he threw that ball, and you know who he looked like? He looked like Machado. Throwing it from different angles with arm strength and stuff like that. And guys, relax. I'm not saying he's Machado. I'm not saying I'm still questioning his defense, but his arm reminded me of Machado. throwing it from different angles and getting it to first because he looped it, right? And you're told not to loop balls, but the fact that he looped it and got in there in time just tells you his arm strength, and that was an amazing play.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Mark Vientos has an amazing arm and that he's been improving this whole season. I'm not going to say he is Machado on the defense, nor do I want him to be Machado in general because I just don't think that Machado's lives up to all the hype that he gets. Although he does play a really good defensive third base, but we've seen him continue to improve and to try in and try out each and every time he's out there. And so, I appreciate the effort that he puts in there. We know that he gives his all each and every time he's out there. Um, and like when he gets on these slumps that he has been in for the past week, hopefully he broke out of it. But when he gets on these slumps, that defense that and those plays that he makes are going to be a lot noticeable, more noticeable, and they're going to be lot more important. So if when he doesn't provide on the offensive side, he needs to be able to provide on the defensive side. And he was able to do that in those couple plays that you described.
Yeah, no, for sure. And going into game three, that's a great transition. We'll start off with Vientos. Got a couple singles to start off the game to get going. And what I like about it is that it were singles to drive in runs, right? So that means he's breaking out a little bit. They weren't cheapy singles, and so hopefully he's also starting to break out. And then you have Quintana. There's not Quintana says I want to be in this playoff rotation. This is what he's saying. 7 strong innings again today, not allowing a run, 4 strikeouts, and yeah, we get the bats going again today. But the story of this game, I know we got the bats going. I know Luis Angel got another home run, and we kind of broke it all open. But I still think the story of this game is Quintana still striving for that playoff spot in the rotation.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to be the Mets management right now, trying to decide who gets that playoff spot because everyone has been pitching out of their minds lately. Quintana is obviously pitching. He might be thinking might be my last opportunity to see the playoffs, and so he's got to be pitching with a little extra in his pocket, and he's doing it well. He's obviously not getting the strikeouts because he's not a strikeout pitcher, but he's getting those ground balls, he's getting those outs, and he's not walking as many. That's been Quintana's biggest struggle his whole Mets tenure is that he was walking a lot of batters, especially earlier in this season. And in this game, he only walked 2 batters, and only gave up 2 hits, mind you. And so for him to have that length to get to 7 innings each and every time, it's just a testament to how much he wants it. But also, I got to give a shout out to Jeremy Hefner too, because what he's been able to do with his pitching staff has been amazing. Not only the starting pitchers, but the bullpen as well. It seems like whenever something goes wrong, he's able to go back to his guys and get them right. Huascar Brazaban is not a guy that we used to trust, even in garbage time, as you would call it, and games like this where we're up 10-0, because he struggled a couple of times, but he seems to be back to form, back to being all right, and even Adam Ottavino to an extent too. That's also a shout to Carlos Mendoza knowing when to use these guys because I think that's a big part of it. But I think Jeremy Hafner has a huge part to have to with this starting pitching, with his bullpen, because guess what? The Mets have the best ERA as a starting rotation since the All Star break, and that's not something to brush by, because when it gets to playoff time, that's going to be really important. Is our starting pitching because, like you've said, pitching wins baseball games.
Yeah, no, for sure, and yeah, he definitely gets a lot of credit. and but it's a collaborative effort, right? These guys, um, attacking the strike zone, you know, and going deep into games has allowed the bullpen to be used basically similar to old school baseball, where the bullpen, the pitchers went deep, and the bullpen was only used, you know, um, 1 or 2 innings a game. People, I hope they start seeing that this is how you keep everybody healthy, right? Because you need your starting pitchers to go deep. That's how you keep your bullpens arm healthy. That's how you keep their bullpens arm fresh. Because to be honest with you, I just think that it's more that they're rested. They're not being overused, right? Reed Garrett, we saw in game 2 get the win, and it's the same. It's the Reed Garrett we saw in the beginning of the season, and I attribute all his woes was to being overused, and that and all of a sudden he's getting rest and he's coming back to the Reed Garrett that we saw in April. Well, guess what? He's getting more rest. He's not pitching all the time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, no, that has a lot to do with it. The fact that all of our starters have been able to go 6 innings plus has been instrumental into these Mets wins, because even in the games that we weren't hitting out of our minds like we have been in these past couple of games, we'll go back to that hitting that winning streak that we had 2 weeks ago or a week ago with that 6 game winning streak. Um, a lot of it had to ride on the shoulders of the starting pitchers, and getting us to 7 innings or 6 innings of scoreless ball. And the fact that they're able to keep us into games is so important, because it provides us a boost to be able to win them late. Like in game 1, where Mania only gives up 1 run, for us to be able to go back and walk that one off. It's so important for starting pitchers to be able to give us quality starts, and I hope it continues to be a trend. But more in this game, do you have anything more to add about that?
no, no, no. This game is I wanted to get into the um is Nemo breaking out? Is Nemo breaking out? Are we seeing the whole team break out at the same time?
I think
You
that's
know,
more of what it is. Tyrone Taylor, um, has been on fire lately. When he gets the opportunity, and now Nimmo has seemed to have woken up.
yeah, no, and the interesting part about this lineup is JD Martinez was on the bench. They put Marte as the DH, and the question is, are we going to start seeing more of this where it's Jesse Winker at DH, and because right now the outfield alignment on a regular day has got to be, um, you know, uh, as at least against a righty, it's got to be Nimmo, Taylor, and Marte in the outfield, and Jesse Winker as a DH, right? Because Martinez is just not cutting it. He's not producing, and at least against the righty, Winker might be that DH for us.
Yeah, no, and I'd love to see that. Although, there's a good argument to be made that JD Martinez does have a lot of experience in crunch time in these important games. So you want to see him a little more out there, but he hasn't been swinging the bat well, and only if all that he provides is a bat and he doesn't provide any defense, then there's not much that you can do with him there. You can't move him around in the outfield. He doesn't play first base even, and so that limits your options when you have him out there. Right now, it seems like his best role would be to be in a pitch hit scenario. Um, Crazy to say, but he's not been back to form. I think, like the Alvarez situation that we addressed earlier in the year, you have to give him the playing time. You have to give him the time to break out, because like we said, in crunch time, he can be such an integral cog into this Mets team. And Starling Marte has been hitting well. Jesse Winker has not. He hasn't been hitting as well. And so keep riding the hot bats with Starling Marte and Tyrone Taylor, and then split playing time between Jesse Winker and JD Martinez.
And that's what I'm saying. It's more splitting the time with them, because yes, Winker hasn't given us what he gave the Nationals in the beginning of the season, but he's still giving us more than what right now, anyways, more than what Martinez has given us. And this is crunch time. You know, you got to ride the hot hand, or at least the hand that's giving you a little bit more than the other guy. And right now, Bader's not giving us a lot of bat, right? Tyrone Taylor may not be defensively Bader in center field, but he's fine, right? So and he's hitting, and Martinez is not giving us anything. I think he's. I don't even know when's the last big hit he had. It's been over a month at least, and so Winker might be the guy against the lefties. I mean, against the righties. You can still sprinkle in Martinez here and there, and against lefties, sprinkle him in. But today was a big test, right? You didn't have JD Martinez in the lineup against the lefty. So is that more of signs things to come because he wasn't in the lineup against the lefty?
Yeah, no, and I think it's gonna all depend um, on this key fact, and it might be something that we talk a little bit more about in a little bit, but I think it all will depend on how much time Brett Beatty gets at the plate, because this is a guy that is on the verge of coming back. He made a start today, um, went over 4 in AAA, but we know that he's a lefty bat that can play second and third and provides you another um, spot in that on that lefty role. And so we know that Jesse Winker is going to get a lot of that, but I don't know how much playing time is going to be taken away from JD Martinez because of that. But I don't know. I'm excited to see Brett Beatty. You know how we feel about him on the podcast. We still believe in him. At least I do. I think he can still be a vital piece at third base for the Mets' future with Mark Vientos playing DH or first base, whichever one. Um, and um,
I
and he can
know.
provide a spark late in the season, and we've seen him do it before.
I don't know. Vientos looks pretty decent at third, and do you want to mess with him? He might not be a Gold Glove third baseman, but if he's adequate over there and he likes playing third, do you even want to mess with Vientos? But those are questions for another day. We'll wrap this up with talking about we're going to leave Beatty to talk about at the end of the pod, but let's talk about him right now. You know. He went over 4, right? Mendoza came out talking today that it's a possibility, depending on how he does these last 5 games with AAA, because the AAA season's ending, in 5 days, and it might be possible that he's coming up, and I could see him come up, right? Right, Eddie Alvarez is not going to be a guy that we take on the playoff roster because he's not eligible, and so having Beatty come off the bench, he gives you the flexibility of playing second. So that's where Eddie Alvarez plays, right? You're not going to need the speed because you got Acuna and all the other guys, and so you might want to see a Brett Beatty up here as that left-handed bat off the bench. The last week of the season, and who knows? Who knows? Because it depends. It all depends on Beatty and how he does this week.
And I think it might not even be a role at the plate. We know how good of defense Brett Beatty can play, and we know how much the Mets don't trust Mark Vientos' defense just yet. Like you said, he can be something in the future, but late in games, we often see, or when we had the ability to, him get subbed out for Jose Iglesias at third base. And so this could be a move that the Mets make where uh, uh, Brett Beatty is just a defensive replacement, and that wouldn't be so bad. Because if he's not hitting well, and he can provide a good defense at their base, then that's going to be a crucial role for this Mets team that lacks depth in the infield. We have Jose Iglesias to back it up, but if we had 3 players that can move within each other in that infield. That just provides so much versatility and so much for you to do with your bench. And so I think that we could see him in a role, regardless if he does well in his last 5 games with the Syracuse Mets.
It's possible. You're right. He can come in for defense, but I don't know if you're subbing in for Vientos at this point anymore. We talked about his defense being questionable in the beginning of the season, but to me, he's like turned it up in September. So I don't know if this is sustainable. I don't know if he's just feeling it, getting more confidence at third base since he's playing it every day, and with no fear of being taken out in the late innings. And so who knows? But you're right. Beatty can come in for defense in the later um, next week or in the to help us out. But any other concerns that you have for this team right now? The vibes are so high that I don't know if I have any concerns right now, other than Lindor being hurt.
Yeah, there's nothing that much we can say except that this team seems to feed off of each other, and that's a little concerning to me. That they can't, put on these, crooked innings. They have this one big blow up inning, which is what they had in these past couple of games, and then the other innings are kind of silent. I kind of want to see more consistency from this team, and it's weird for me to complain about scoring 10 runs, but when you score 9 runs in just one inning, um, and do nothing the rest of the innings except for a solo home run. Those other innings, the Mets kind of went down quietly. They went down 3 in a row, 4 in a row, or 4 men up or 5 men up, stuff like that with not a lot of movement on the base pass, and so that could be concerning because of how um, inconsistent this offense is. But if they continue to feed off of each other, then it's actually a boost instead of a deficit.
Yeah, no, and we talked about this a bunch of times this year, where it's a one inning that they blow up in, and the other games are quiet. Yesterday, they actually had a more even scoring throughout the game, and scored in multiple innings, and sometimes these games are like this in a game like today, right? The game was over in that inning, right? Everybody literally, I think the Nationals were done. Once with these teams that are trying to play spoilers, once you take the wind out of them, knock the wind out of them, they tend to lose all momentum, and I think the Mets, wanted to also get this game over with and move on to the next. But you're right, all year long, it's been one of those things where they've scored in one big inning, and then kind of that hide and go seek kind of offense. But uh, I'll forgive them in this game because I think it was just the way the game kind of opened up for them, and the Nationals didn't have any fight after that inning.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to really be evident in this next series because the what we saw in the first series that we had with the Phillies earlier this week was that we had those innings. We had the 4 run inning in that first game or in the second game, and then it was quickly erased. Not quickly, it was actually torn down bit by bit, and so it. But if the Mets can add to their leads after those big innings, or if they can chisel on some more, then I think that's going to be a good sign for the Mets or if their pitching is at least able to keep them out of the game. But with these good teams, we can see that it's hard to do that. We need some more momentum because baseball is a game of momentum, right? And so if we have those big innings early and then do nothing for the rest of the game, that gives the Phillies or the opposing team more optimism to go out and score more runs that they have a chance to be in these games. So this is going to be a real test. We've talked about it. We've talked about it last time, but this next 4 games with the Phillies is going to be what determines our season. Because no matter what you say about the Brave series, um, that this series comes before that. Right now, we're 2 games up on them, on the Braves, and if we can take care of business in this in this Philly series, I think that means a lot for us going into that Brave series.
Yeah, no, for sure. But before we get into that, let's get into the who's right part of the podcast. Offense. It's got to be Acuna, right? Acuna. Um, he was all over the place, right? Offense, defense, all over the place for 2 games. Pitching, got to be Quintana. It went 7 strong, and got the win, and fighting for that playoff rotation spot. And as far as the Mets killer, we had a hard time picking one. Let us know what you guys think. The Mets killer kind of just the way we like it. You know, there was none, and I'll take it. But yeah, Luis Angel and Quintana are the Mets standout of the series.
Yeah, no, they both look good. Neighboring countries. Uh, I'm sure that they are proud to represent as well, and so they're representing their countries well. They're representing the Mets really well, and let's hope that this trend continues. Quintana, I think, has one more start in this season before um, he goes. Um, well, we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but this is his last. It'll be his last tryout, and so far he's put up a good second half to the season, and so love to. Does he have two?
Mhm.
He might have 2 against the Brewers. You're right. So he'll have 2 more starts to prove it. And this is, uh, you know, he's been doing really well. And I'm just interested to see what kind of role Luis Angel plays now, but also in the future with all the Mets talent that we have coming up.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And it's good for the future. But let's talk about now. Let's talk about the next series, and let's preview it really quick. Tomorrow we got Severino and our buddy Taiwan Walker. Are we gonna get back Taiwan Walker for that performance he had the other day against us? Let's hope so. On Friday we got Peterson and Sanchez. On Saturday, we got Manaya and Ranger. And on Sunday, we'll close it off with Wheeler. And we don't got a guy listed, but I'm assuming that it'll be, I mean, that's supposed to be Tyler McGill's spot. I'm assuming that it'll be Tyler McGill. Uh, you know, I'm assuming it's going to be Tyler McGill. I'm going to go with that it's Tyler McGill unless Blackburn can come back. You can pitch Quintana on short rest, but I don't recommend that, especially the way he's pitching. And that's where I'll kind of disagree with you on what's more important. And I do believe that facing the Braves is more important, winning against the Braves than the Phillies, only because we have to keep the Braves off our back, not the Phillies. And so I would rather have Quintana, Severino, and Peterson going in that matchup against the Braves. But who knows? This is going to be a great matchup, series, and we'll see how it goes this weekend.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this weekend. I think we have some favorable matchups, except for in that last start. But um, we can, kill the momentum going into the last start and win these first 3 games. And I think we're in a position to do so. Obviously, Suarez carved us up earlier in this year, but he's come down to earth, and we haven't seen him since really the beginning of the year. And so I think we can get back on him. Sanchez had some decent stuff, but I saw some holes that the Mets just didn't execute on. And so let's hope that they can execute on him and Taiwan Walker, because we know that um, Taiwan has not been having a good season. And hopefully these Mets bats break waking up will you know get them the wins here. And so the only reason I say that this Philly series is more important is because they're the games right in front of us. We have to put ourselves in a position to where if we go into that Brave series, we know that we can either clinch, or if we even lose in that series, if forbid we even lose in that series, we're in a good position to still make the playoffs. And so that's where it matters to me. If we win three out of four in this series, I think it puts us in a good position to going into that Brave series.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, absolutely. 3 out of 4 would be great. I, I'm, I'm hoping. My prediction is a split. Um, 4 game series are tough, but I'll definitely take 3 out of 4. Never gonna say three. Just like before, I was asking for 2 out of 3, and we got the sweep. So,
Yeah, and listen, they're on our turf now. Things were different because we were in Philly. They had all the momentum on their side, but this is the Mets' last homestand of the season, and you got to believe that stadium is going to be packed out. City Field is going to be rocking from Thursday to Sunday, each and every game, especially because we're playing the Phillies. And so I think that'll go in our favor. We've seen this Mets team play off of the crowd and how much the crowd they feed off of them. And so um, I think we can get it done. Let's go get this done, and we can be looking after this. We can be talking to you guys again about how we need to win maybe one game against the Braves to clinch a spot. And so I'm feeling good. I think that we're a much different team. We should have won 3 games in Philly, and that's also why I feel like we should win more of these games, because we're so close to winning all those games in Philly. So I think we can get it done. I believe in this Mets team. We have all year, even how frustrating they've gotten us sometimes. They've proven it to us time and time again why we should believe in them.
yeah, no, for sure. No, absolutely. So let's get right to it. Who's your Met standout of this series?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it one last time. I'm gonna do it. Give me Pete Alonso. He's talked about how he wants this team to be in the playoffs, how he wants to celebrate with them, and it's all on his shoulders. It's no longer on the back of Francisco Lindor because we saw what that did to him. It's on Pete Alonso's shoulders for this Mets team to get some of these wins here. And I think that he can provide a huge spark for this offense.
Yeah, let's hope this streak is happening right now. This power streak, and he's going on that streak right now, because like we talked about earlier in the podcast, all will be forgiven if he is, and so I hope so. We probably won't see Lindor for the first maybe 1 or 2 games, maybe um, more than that, depending on how he feels and how the series is going. If we can continue to score runs, we'll make it easy on him to get some rest, right? So let's keep scoring runs, and let's get some rest. So guess what I'm gonna do? Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go with the rook, and go with Acuna, and let that spark keep going.
That's a crazy way to go. I'll just mark my book right here. I'll just take the dub, and yeah, that's it's a bold choice.
Nah, man, I'm telling you, Spark Plug is ready to go. He sees the spotlight, and he's gonna live up to it. So and for the pitching standout, this one's tough because everybody's pitching, right? We got Severino, we got Peterson, we got Manaya. We hopefully have Diaz closing out a couple of these games. So it's a tough choice. But I'm gonna go with the guy that has been doing it for the second half. Um, Actually, they've all been doing it for the second half. Severino the whole season. But I'm gonna go with Minaya.
Yeah, he's been our ace. We had an argument earlier in the year. I was thinking about this the other day of who was the Mets ace. You chose Mania. I chose Severino. So guess what I'm gonna do? Go with Severino, and I'm gonna say that he picks up the big time win in this one. It's gonna set the tone for the rest of the series. Obviously, Mania has pitched a lot better. He's been the strikeout king and the ace of the Mets this last half of the year. But Severino was that the first half of the year, and so I think he can get back on track, get those strikeouts back. Um, Although he never had really had many strikeouts earlier in the year either, but he's going to be the tone setter for this series, so I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, not a bad choice, right? Hard choice because that means we left out Diaz and Peterson. They both can steal the show. Let's hope. Let's get Diaz stealing the show because he's got, that'll mean he came in for a few saves in this series. So let's do it. But who's your Mets killer of the series?
Well, I'm glad that I get to choose first because there was only one guy that I hate the most. That hopefully by picking him will jinx him. That's Bryce Harper. Because all the guys that I picked end up not hitting. So let's hope that the same is true for Bryce Harper. Because man, he can really kill the Mets.
Yeah, no doubt. He's the captain. He's clutch. He's an awesome player, and I picked him last time, and he came through. Which I'm glad I didn't have to pick him this time. I'll let you wear that mantle. And the guy that I'm gonna pick is I have no idea because, like you said, Harper was the only pick, but I'm gonna go with Castellanos. Well, let's switch it up. You picked them last time. I'll go with we'll switch it up this time.
I'm surprised he didn't go with Klaus Schwarber because Schwarberian, as they like to call him, is apparently waking up just in time for October. So I can't stand this Phillies team. I can't stand any Phillies team, but the Philadelphia Phillies kind of sit at the top of the list, right? And so let's hope that both of those guys don't do diddly squat this series. That we're able to crush them, and I think they're looking for a clinch in this series, right? They didn't clinch it. Did they clinch it tonight? I don't think they clinched it tonight. So
Yeah, and I don't know because they lost the night before. I don't know if that's still valid. This series. I don't know. I didn't look at that. I know before the Milwaukee series that was a talk, but I don't know if that's still part of the talk now after losing to Milwaukee. So
yeah, I think they have to win two more games for them to clinch the NL, or at least to clinch the NL East. And so, um, that's especially if they're playing the Mets. Yeah, so they got to win two games, and I'd love to crush their dreams and not have them clinch the playoffs against us.
yeah, let's motivate it. Let's use that as motivation and take 3 out of 4 from this team. And the minor league season is coming to an end. Single and double A are done last week before that, and triple A is finishing up this week. And so not much to talk about other than the potential Beatty, and we kind of touched on that earlier. So we're going to end it there, and let's get 3 out of 4. Let's get this done. Let's keep the good vibes going. Spark plug Acuna. Let's keep it going, and keep swinging that hard bat. And let's go, Mets. Before we get out of here, subscribe to the channel, like this video on replay. Let us know how you're feeling. Keep those good vibes going. Victor, any last words?
We just got to get it done. I've poured my heart and soul out into this podcast right now. Beat the Phillies. Beat the Phillies. Let's go, Mets.
Let's go Mets.